And here's the rule. You'll notice that it looks a lot different than the old app builder. It's a lot prettier. It has a much better editing interface. And it emphasizes the way that rules really ought to look, which is as a rule set.
How about that Mike Grace?
Yeah. And Farmer. And we can't forget the support staff that made all this happen. So we rewrote App Builder to use the new API that Steve mentioned. So if you don't know what that means, the rule repository that Kynetx uses now has an API on it that's authenticated, which means that anyone in this room can write a custom editor tool if they want. Okay, so why might you want to do that? Well, you might want to write a tool that some low-wage laborer is going to use to enter some information, and it's actually going to create the rule sets from that. So you could write a tool which is a special purpose editor for rule sets using this API. We also have a Ruby gem which allows you to have command line access to your rules. So that if you wanted to use Emacs, for example, which I do, to edit rules, then you can do that using this new Ruby gem to grab things out of the repository and check them back in. We rewrote App Builder to use that new API. So this is essentially eating our own dog food. We don't have any special access with App Builder to the back-end system than you do. Anything you see in App Builder, you could do. And to make that even easier, we are going to open source App Builder, the whole thing, so that you can take it and play around with it and change it and do whatever you want with it. So it's not quite there yet. There's still a few legal things we're working out. I believe it's going to be open sourced under an MIT license, which means you can take it, do anything you want with it. Don't have to give us credit. You can just take it and build your own stuff. And I expect that we'll probably put it on code.google.com. So watch for that announcement on code.kynetx.com in the near future where you can actually grab it. If you need it right now for something, just let us know. We'll ship you the code. But it should be available in a public repository very soon. Along with the Ruby gem. The Ruby gem that accesses the API will also be publicly open sourced. And we plan on having other library APIs for other languages. So like if you wanted to have a Perl or a PHP or a Python interaction with the repository, you could do that. And in fact, we would invite your help. If you want to help us write some of those libraries, we would love to get some help doing that. So if that's something that interests you, please talk to Mike Farmer or Mike Grace and get hooked up, and we'll let that happen. Okay, so let's get back to the rules. So we're going to create a very simple rule. Inside the meta block here, I'm going to fill in my name. I'm going to turn logging on, just because it might be useful for us. And then I'm going to insert some domains in the dispatch. What this means, if you're not familiar with KRL, is the browser extension needs to know where it should raise events. And so the dispatch block is one of the places where we tell the browser extension which events are salient for this particular rule set. Let's see. Where should we fire this? I'll fire it. No, actually, let's be less specific. We'll just fire it at byu.edu. Okay. It's not going to be any global, and my select statement is going to be very general. If you're a regular expression user, what does .star do? Anything, right? So we're going to match anything. We'll take the no-op out. And we're just going to leave that notify as it is, and we're going to save this. What's that? No, it'll match everything. Yeah. Yeah, we'll match nothing too. Yeah. So what we're going to do now is we're going to deploy this rule. Now, the reason I'm doing this is to make sure you are familiar with the fact that we have a complete versioning system built into the repository. So your code actually will be able to take advantage of this rule versioning system. So I'm going to deploy this. If I didn't want to deploy this version, I could actually back up to an earlier version. So it's now production, and I'm going to distribute it. How brave should I be? Sam, Sid, is it going to work? Okay, we're going to do a browser extension. So I'm going to create a browser extension, and this browser extension is going to be impact demo, and we don't need any of that. And I'm going to create a Firefox browser extension since I'm in Firefox. Well, I would, but I don't have Explorer on this machine. I don't know why Firefox doesn't know that it is the place where XPI files should be opened, but it doesn't. Oh, so it would just install it, wouldn't even ask you? Okay, good. Yeah, because sometimes you want to save it and distribute it on your website or whatever. You don't want to just install it. Okay, so we're going to install that. And this is Firefox. It happened too fast? You didn't like that? Restart Firefox. If I was using Chrome, of course, I wouldn't have to restart. And check up here. Indeed, I have the impact demo there and turned on. And I'm going to go to classes.eclab.byu.edu, and we should see the rule fire. So, hello world, this is the sample rule. Okay. Now, this will actually go away, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to edit this rule really just to show you that once I've installed the browser extension, I don't have to reinstall it. So, come back into the rule to edit it. Anybody know a joke? Do we have a network connection? There we go. Yes. If you want to use browser extensions, right, you have to create an extension for each browser, and then you'd have to distribute them. So the question was, if I create an application, I have to create an extension for each browser, and that is true. Now I'm going to, if this starts working again, I'll show you another demo. What's that? You don't have to create a separate app, just the extension. Right, so I can use that push button mechanism to create extensions for each of the popular browsers, and I can just distribute them. Now, apparently this isn't going to come back. I don't know if it's the network or what. This is going to be a bummer if it doesn't come back. Yeah. So let's let that go, because I have one surprise demo that most people haven't seen yet, even people who work for Kynetx. A few people have. And it's actually running on my development environment over here. So this is not live yet, but it will be very soon. So one of the things which I mentioned to you was we would like to have events besides just page view. So I'm firing this off of a bookmarklet to make things easy, but it all worked a minute ago, I swear. Oh, this doesn't have a network connection. Hold on. Slow network. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to fire this rule, which I've called form. And you can see that it places a little notification box up there with a form. And I'm going to type my name in here, and I'm going to submit it.